In lane 1, representing Thailand, Nuntida Krajangjam. And in lane 2, representing Hungary, Abid Siam.
Thailand, Hungary, attention.
There goes the buzzer. We are underway with this B final for the lightweight women's single sculls. Beautiful pictures up on the big screen of the start, and for those tuning in around the world, you'll have pictures soon enough. And it's a great start here for both athletes, both going off at 42 strokes a minute. Rapid stuff, tough to choose the early leader as it stands at the moment. Perhaps the Hungarian just edging ever so slightly out in front now, dropping to 38 strokes a minute alongside the Thai athlete Krajangjam, who's only a foot or two behind at this stage, now thinking about settling into their race rhythm. Both navigating a dead straight course from the start and well established into their race rhythm now.
Proszę Państwa, i wystartowały dwie zawodniczki w tym biegu. Dwie zawodniczki w finale B w konkurencji jedynek kobiet kategorii lekkiej. Walczą one o 7. i 8. miejsce w ogólnej klasyfikacji Pucharu Świata. Na torze pierwszym reprezentantka Tajlandii, na torze drugim reprezentantka Węgier. Jeszcze zawodniczki nie minęły linii 500 metrów, natomiast na tym momencie ta stawka jest bardzo wyrównana. Obie płyną tempem 34-35 pociągnięcia na minutę i naprawdę kulka w kulkę na tych pierwszych metrach tego wyścigu.
There was a moment where I thought that the Hungarian Abid Siam was going to run away with it, but the Thai athlete put in a big push there and drew level again, and they both settled down to 34 strokes a minute, but with a bit of a wobble for Krajangjam's stroke, she just missed a stroke, and that saw her lose just over half a length in the space of about 10 meters. So this does not mean that she's out of the race yet, because that little surge we just saw a moment ago pulled her right back into contention. But I've got a great picture here where I can see that little wobble that she had. Saw her lose half a length, but she's back up to race pace again now. And in fact, better boat speed than the Hungarian through that last 50 meters. And that lead is diminishing once again. It's just over half a length passing through 500.
Proszę Państwa, i już zawodniczki minęły linię 500 metrów. Na prowadzeniu reprezentantka Węgier. Czas po 500 metrach to minuta 52, z kolei minuta 54, czyli niecałe 2 sekundy za nią reprezentantka Tajlandii. Obie zawodniczki nieco zmniejszyły tempo, w tej chwili 32-33 pociągnięcia na minutę, jednak prędkość łodzi utrzymuje się wciąż taka sama, 4,3-4,4 metry na sekundę. Zobaczymy, co się stanie, gdy zawodniczki zbliżą się do linii 1000 metrów, bowiem bardzo często ten drugi odcinek w tym 2000 odcinku jest tym odcinkiem decydującym i to te ostatnie metry są tymi metrami, gdzie rozgrywa się cały wyścig.
Athletes now passing through 750. The Hungarian starting to build a bit of a margin ahead of Krajangjam, the Thai athlete. Both of them settle into their race rhythm, 33 strokes a minute, and we're going to catch up with our commentators out there on the course, where we've got Robert Trahan-Jones and Tomek Kucharski at the 1000, Colleen Saville and Waldek Zawojovic at 1500. So let's say good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon, Pete. Good afternoon, everyone worldwide listening in to this afternoon's racing here on Lake Malta in Poznan. Yeah, we kick off the racing with this B final of the lightweight women's singles. Abid Siam for Hungary and Nuntida Krajangjam for Thailand. Okay, it may only be two scullers in this race, but these two athletes who are starting out on their sporting career, coming in to this particular regatta with relatively little experience at this elite level, and no doubt these performances will stand them in great stead in their future careers. And as we've been listening to Pete doing the opening meters of this B final, we hear that Abid Siham, the Hungarian, is leading and continues to maintain that advantage. Some 2 lengths clear of Kajangjam at the halfway mark, so the form book running true because it was the Hungarian came out with the faster time, not only in yesterday's heats, but also in today's repechage. So this is the second time today that these two athletes have raced.
Na 1000 metrów zdecydowanie prowadzi Węgierka z przewagą już prawie 2 długości łodzi nad Tajlandką. Węgierka płynie spokojnie. Ten bieg już jest rozegrany. Teraz walczy tylko i wyłącznie z czasem. Tajlandka płynie bardzo spokojnie. To jest 30 uderzeń na minutę. Ten bieg jest już rozstrzygnięty.
Well, Abid Siham continuing to lead, but she's having to work at it. She's a couple of pips higher, 32 strokes a minute against Kajangjam at 30. I just wonder if the Thai athlete were to increase that rate, whether it might be additional work, additional pressure in the water to narrow the gap that is widening out between these two athletes. They're racing for places 7 and 8 overall in the competition this weekend, a relatively small entry for the lightweight women's single sculls, as befits a non-Olympic boat class, often used as a training ground for elite athletes, but if they want to gather selection for the Olympic boat class, which is, of course, is the lightweight double. So Hungary leading Thailand, and for the first time this afternoon, over to Colleen and Waldeck at 1500.
Hello, thank you, Robert, and hello to everyone tuning in. You join us at the 1,500 meter down, and indeed it is Abid Siham who's continuing to hold the advantage that she's held from the start. These athletes lined up against one another earlier today in the heats. It's about a 4-second margin separating them. That gap a little bit larger now, and a great way it's looking for the Hungarian to end her regatta.
W tej chwili zawodniczki minęły dystans 1500 metrów na prowadzeniu Węgierka Siham. Abid mniej więcej 15 metrów przewagi i płynie spokojnie. Oczywiście kontroluje ten wyścig, spogląda od czasu do czasu na Tajlandkę Nontidontude Karajam, która płynie też tutaj dosyć spokojnie, wie, że tego wyścigu nie jest w stanie wygrać. Ona przyjechała tutaj do Poznania po naukę i my w ogóle cieszymy się, że ta egzotyczna ekipa z Tajlandii przyjechała do Poznania, no i tutaj prezentuje się tak, jak się prezentuje. Przyjechali po prostu po naukę.
Closing in now, just shy of the final 250 meters. It's Hungary with the advantage. Abid Siham and the Thai sculler Krajamjam just behind her. Pete, she's just 21 years old, so I think we can expect to see more of her. At least I hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Colleen, that's right. And young athletes starting to make their way up to compete and represent their nations at this international level. Just so much experience still to build, and it's great to see that happening out there on the water now. So Abid Siham for Hungary leading ahead of Krajangjam for Thailand. Coming into the closing stages of their match, pretty much stroke for stroke. Boat speed slightly better there with the Hungarian continuing to build that margin into the last 150.
Proszę Państwa, ostatnie 150 metrów tego wyścigu. Tutaj prawdopodobnie nic już się nie zmieni. Tak jak rozpoczęła reprezentantka Węgier, tak zakończy wyścig na pierwszym miejscu i ostatecznie zdobędzie 7. miejsce w Pucharze Świata. Węgierka jest młodą zawodniczką, tutaj przyjechała zdobywać doświadczenie w Poznaniu. W tej chwili płynie tempem 34 pociągnięcia na minutę i ma aż 40 metrów przewagi. Tak więc tutaj już nic się nie wydarzy, za chwilę przekroczy linię mety.
Last couple of strokes, Abid Siham for Hungary is going to cross the line here to win the B final, taking 7th place out of the World Cup rankings with perhaps 3 lengths of clear water ahead of Krajangjam for Thailand. We're going to move on very quickly because the next B final is already approaching halfway. It's for the lightweight men's single sculls this time. We've got Australia, we've got Uruguay, USA, Ireland, Germany, Australia and Hungary.
Proszę Państwa, a my przechodzimy do kolejnego finału B w konkurencji jednak mężczyzn kategorii lekkiej. Na torze pierwszym Urugwaj, tor drugi Stany Zjednoczone, na torze trzecim Irlandia, na torze czwartym Niemcy, na torze piątym Australia i na torze szóstym Węgier.
Well, they're right at Robert now, so let's jump straight to the action.
Finn Volter for Germany leading this six-boat field, half a length up on the newcomer from Australia, Oscar Guinness. Then over on the far side in third place, bit of a surprise, Citraro for Uruguay in third. That's the 1, 2, 3.
Na 1000 metrów na prowadzeniu zawodnik z Niemiec, na drugim Australia, na trzecim zawodnik z Urugwaju. Przypomnę, Niemiec to jest młodzieżowy mistrz świata z Racic, świetnie wiosłuje w tych warunkach. Wydaje się w tej chwili, że to są bardzo szybkie dzisiaj czasy i zawodnicy będą, myślę, że mogli zdobyć koło 7 minut czas. Warunki, tak jak mówiłem, są świetne.
Yeah, Volter for Germany continues to lead this B final, followed by McGuinness for Australia. Now, I mentioned the Uruguayan sculler. The reason why I'm surprised, he was the slowest of these six in this morning's semi-final, some 24 seconds off the fastest time set by McGuinness. But the Uruguayan really making amends here in this B final, well up in contention and continues to lie third. And in fact, that leading trio are moving further and further away from Gary O'Donovan of Ireland in fourth position. Then we've got the American James McCulloch, and trailing the field is the Hungarian Tamas Benche. Let's find out the latest at 1500.
Just approaching 1500 now, and it's the Australian Oscar McGuinness who's managed to move his way into a first place position. So currently leading, he'll be first to cross over, and then it's the German Finn Volter of Germany slipping back into second in this B final, and the Uruguayan sculler, well, he continues to run third.
Bardzo zacięty wyścig jak na finał B. Na prowadzeniu Australijczyk Oscar McGuinness, ale o drugie miejsce toczą tutaj walkę dwaj zawodnicy płynący na torze czwartym, Niemiec Finn Volter oraz egzotyczny reprezentant Urugwaju Bruno Cetraro. No i ten Urugwajczyk na pierwszym torze tam sprawia Niemcowi sporo problemów. Walka o to drugie miejsce będzie zacięta, choć nie można lekceważyć pozostałych Donowana z Irlandii, czy też McCullocha ze Stanów Zjednoczonych.
Oscar McGuinness looking pretty safe up at the top. Of course, there's still the final 250, 300 meters, but the battle, Pete, is on between Uruguay and Germany.
Uruguay and Germany race on. Uruguayan doing slightly better at it at the moment when it comes into this last 200 or so meters. Not by much. There's a matter of a meter or two separating them. But the Germans got the better boat speed. Finn Volter trying to push up and contest to move up into the front of the field. But it's the Aussie, Oscar McGuinness, still out in front.
Proszę Państwa, duże emocje tutaj na ostatnich metrach tego wyścigu. Zawodnicy walczą od miejsca od 7 do 12 w ogólnej klasyfikacji Pucharu Świata. Tak więc jest o co walczyć. Spójrzmy proszę na Niemca, który na tych ostatnich metrach jeszcze podkręca tempo 38-39. Na pewno chce dogonić Australijczyka. Czy mu się to uda? Ostatnie metry będą decydujące.
Sprint on. Oscar McGuinness under so much pressure as the Uruguayan Catrao Beriolo moves up level with him at the front for this B final. Finn Volter comfortably in third, but I think the Uruguayan's going to take the win across the line. It is Uruguay ahead of Australia, then Germany, and then fourth place we have James McCulloch for the USA. Fifth goes to Gary O'Donovan of Ireland, and then sixth place Tamas Benche for Hungary. What an exciting conclusion to this B final of the lightweight men's singles. Time now for the first A final of this weekend's competition. It's the A final for the PR2 Women's Single Sculls.
Proszę Państwa, czas na pierwszy finał A w konkurencji PR2 jedynek kobiet.
In lane 1, representing Ireland, Katie O'Brien. In lane 2, for Ukraine 1, Anna Isanova. And in lane 3, for Ukraine 2, Svetlana Bohuslavska.
Na torze pierwszym reprezentantka Irlandii. Na torze drugim reprezentantka Ukrainy. I na torze trzecim druga reprezentantka Ukrainy.
Ireland, Ukraine 1, Ukraine 2. Attention.
There we have the buzzer. The first A final here this weekend has started. Good clean start for lanes 1 and 3. That's O'Brien and Bohuslavska. A little bit of a tricky first couple of strokes for Isanova in the center lane. We'll see whether she gets back up to speed. You can see from these pictures on the big screen a really great lever action there from Katie O'Brien of Ireland. Sees her take the early advantage, already pushing out to over half a length on Bohuslavska, who's currently riding in second. 36 strokes a minute for Katie O'Brien, looking to try and build that lead early and soon. It's a commanding position to be in, to be able to look back on the rest of the field and respond to any surges or changes in strategy that she might see developing behind her. So clearly going for that faster start. She's still at 36 as we see Bohuslavska start to wind it down to 34, 33. Isanova at 33 as well. The gap's starting to build here. The question will be whether Bohuslavska can keep in contact with the fast Irish woman.
Proszę Państwa, no i wystartowały. Ja tylko poinformuję, że jest to konkurencja dla zawodników niepełnosprawnych, a konkurencja PR2 jest przeznaczona dla wioślarzy, którzy mają w pełni funkcjonalne tułowia, barki i ramiona, ale nie są w stanie użyć przesuwanego siedzenia do napędzania łodzi z przodu i właśnie dlatego mają taki pas, który trzyma im nogi, biodra, aby nie korzystali oni z nóg. Proszę Państwa, zawodniczki zbliżają się do linii 500 metrów. Na prowadzeniu Irlandka to ona rozpoczęła najwyższym tempem. W tej chwili 31-33 pociągnięć na minutę i już 20 metrów przewagi.
Coming out through 400 now, Katie O'Brien solidifying this lead out in front. It's over 2 lengths now already at this early stage as she strides down to 33 strokes a minute, looking to find a good race rhythm to sustain her through the middle course of this race. So this middle thousand, often the challenging part psychologically to get through before you start thinking about winding up for a strong finish in the final quarter, the final 500 meters of the race. She's dropped another couple of pips to 31, but maintaining the better boat speed out there on the water. So really focusing on that great strength and power through each stroke. Bohuslavska starting to leave behind Isanova, her fellow countrywoman from Ukraine, who's still sitting in third place. So the question is, as they go through 500, what are those margins? You can see on the big screen, it's 2.5 lengths clear water between O'Brien and Bohuslavska, and then half a length or so of clear water between Bohuslavska and Isanova.
Proszę Państwa, zawodniczki minęły linię 500 metrów i tutaj tak jak rozpoczęła najmocniej, tak kontynuuje Irlandka z czasem 2 minuty 16 sekund. Pokonała ona pierwsze 500 metrów, tak więc do końca tego wyścigu jeszcze 1300-1400 metrów. Na prowadzeniu wciąż bez zmian. Jedyne co się zmienia w tym wyścigu to prowadzenie Irlandki. Ona z każdym kolejnym chwytem powiększa tą przewagę i widzimy właśnie teraz na ekranie, że prędkość wiosłowania to 31 pociągnięcia na minutę. minutę, nieco niżej niż płynąca na torze trzecim Ukrainka. O na tempie 34, 30, nawet 5 pociągnięć na minutę, tak więc trochę inna strategia tego wyścigu. Pytanie, która będzie zwycięska na ostatnich metrach tego wyścigu?
Well, as the temperature clicks well over 30 degrees now, we're looking at nearly 31, 32. You can see the ripple, a sort of mirage effect out there on the water as the heat bounces off it. But having a great race here, Robert, we can see Katie O'Brien. She certainly had the start to the race she would have hoped for.
Yes, isn't she doing really well here in this A final of the PR2 women's singles? A relatively recent addition to the World Rowing Programme at World Cup and World Championship level, and of course not yet a Paralympic boat event. And that accounts in part for the relatively small entry of just 3 crews. They had a race for lanes, or test race as we now call it, yesterday, and O'Brien for Ireland was the fastest of those 3 athletes on that occasion, and here it is being reflected when it really counts. Katie O'Brien sculls out of the Galway Club on the west coast of Ireland, coached by John Maloney, and she already has, in her relatively short para-rowing career, built up a considerable pedigree, took the bronze medal at Linz 3 years ago at the World Championships, and at the halfway mark leading by several lengths of clear water ahead of the 2 Ukrainian athletes.
Linię 1000 metrów właśnie przekroczyła Irlandka z ogromną przewagą nad Ukrainką z toru trzeciego i Ukrainka z toru drugiego jako trzecia zbliża się do 1000 metrów. Wszystkie zawodniczki w bardzo zbliżonym tempie 32-30 uderzeń na minutę wiosłują. Zbliżając się do mety, dzisiaj są bardzo dobre warunki, wiatr niesie zawodników. Będzie ciekawe, czy też będą poprawiali jak pierwszego dnia w parawioślarskich osadach ustanawiano rekordy toru.
O'Brien continuing to lead into the third quarter ahead of Bohuslawska and Isanova. Ukraine, of course, has a considerable pedigree in para-rowing events across the many years that it has now been part of the World Cup and World Rowing Programme. Bohuslawska's main pedigree is in the PR2 mixed double scull. That's where she finished in 4th position, just out of the medal zone at the Paralympics in Tokyo. And let's not forget that both O'Brien and Bohuslawska will see them race again tomorrow with their male partners in that double sculls final. So we could well see a clutch of medals for these 2 particular athletes. But Isanova making her first international appearance here on the Malta Lake. Positions remain unchanged then. Katie O'Brien leading the way to 1500.
They're coming towards us at the 1500 meter mark, just rounding out that third quarter of the race, and still looking so good for Katie O'Brien. She had a great prior round in that test race, really led from the entire way down. International debut, well, that dates back to 2013. So she's been in the game for a while, has just built on her experience and having a great A final, great end to her weekend and end to the regatta. It's Katie O'Brien from Ireland leading, then it's over to Ukraine 2, Bohuslawska, and Anasnova from Ukraine 1.
Jeszcze 550 metrów do mety ma prowadząca w tym wyścigu Irlandka Katie O'Brien. Bardzo głęboko sięga tym wiosłami, mocno wiosłuje, nie zważając na to, że ma prawie 40 metrów przewagi nad drugą w tym wyścigu Switłaną Bohusławską. Ukrainka także tutaj daje z siebie wszystko, tutaj także walczy o jak najlepszy wynik. Chce jak najbliżej doścignąć zawodniczkę Irlandii, no ale to jest przewaga bardzo duża. W tej chwili mija dopiero celownik 500 metrów. Spojrzała przez chwilę, gdzie jest jej koleżanka z reprezentacji Anna Isanowa. Ona jeszcze ma 30 metrów do tego celownika. Za chwilę dopiero minie w niebieskiej czapeczce. Spoglądała, gdzie jest to 1500 metrów. Dopiero teraz przeszła Ukrainka ten celownik i jeszcze ma 500, prawie 490 metrów do mety, a zatem na prowadzeniu Irlandka i za nią 2 goniące Ukrainki.
So Katie O'Brien well on her way, just about to enter into that red buoy zone, marking the final 250 meters in this A final, set up to get a gold medal barring any mistakes, Pete, in the last 250 on her Rowing Ireland bio page. She says that she's most likely to say, sure, we'll manage, and she's certainly managing this A final, isn't she?
She's doing great. I met her earlier at lunchtime, and she was certainly thinking positive things, I think, about later this afternoon, and she's having a cracking race here, 32 strokes a minute. She's wound it down a little bit further, just maintaining that speed and continuing to build the margin here ahead of Bohuslavska. Her boat speed has continued to be the fastest out there on the water. She hasn't eased off, just eager to have the best race possible within herself, perhaps, as she comes into the last 150.
Niesamowita dominacja Irlandki. Proszę Państwa, to jest prawie 100 metrów przewagi tej zawodniczki. I w tej chwili już tylko 50 metrów dzieli ją od złotego medalu drugiego Pucharu Świata w Poznaniu. Proszę Państwa, zawodniczka nie zwalnia na tych ostatnich tempach. Wciąż wyższe nawet tempo, 32-33 pociągnięcia na minutę, więc tutaj nie tylko liczy się zwycięstwo, ale pewnie chcesz też ustanowić fantastyczny czas. Na drugim miejscu Ukrainka i na trzecim również zawodniczka z Ukrainy, najmłodsza w tej stawce, która dopiero zdobywa doświadczenie na międzynarodowych regatach. Tak więc, proszę Państwa, zawodniczka z Irlandii, zwyciężczynią tego biegu.
And it's gold for Katie O'Brien of Ireland, crossing the line there for the win, ranking #1 at this World Cup here in Poznan. She'll be delighted with that performance, the first medal to be awarded this weekend, and it's gold for Ireland, putting them up there on the medal table already. Coming in for the silver medal then, Svetlana Bohuslavska, Ukraine 2, looking pretty safe here against her fellow countrywoman Anna Isanova of Ukraine, who'll come in for the bronze. Last few strokes, and she hasn't eased off. She's wound it up, in fact, for a bit of a sprint finish into these red buoys. Bohuslavska taking silver. That's confirmed now. Bit of a wobble there for Isanova coming in for the bronze medal position, but she is doing so well into this last few strokes. And in fact, we've got some news, which I'll come on to just after we see Anna Isanova of Ukraine cross the line. Last two strokes for her, and that's bronze to Anna Isanova of Ukraine. But it's fast stuff this afternoon. It's a new world best time. New world best time set by Katie O'Brien. Good thing she didn't take her foot off the gas when it came to the closing stages of her race. She kept the throttle on. New world best time set here today in Poznan is 9:14.65, beating the previous time by 10 seconds. And that was set in the Linz Ottenheim World Championships by Catherine Ross of Australia in 2019. So the new record holder, Katie O'Brien, setting it here in Poznan. Next race then, it's the second A final of the day. We're moving on to the PR2 men's single sculls now. Italy 1, Latvia, France, Netherlands, Italy 2 and Germany.
Proszę Państwa, kolejny finał A dzisiejszego dnia. W konkurencji PR2 jedynek mężczyzn. Na torze pierwszym reprezentant Włoch, na torze drugim Łotwa, na torze trzecim Francja, tor czwarty to Holender, na torze piątym Włoch i na torze szóstym Niemiec.
In lane 1, representing Italy, Gianfilippo Mirabile. In lane 2, for Latvia, Krists Mitskevits. In lane 3, for France, Kevin Buiso. Lane 4 for the Netherlands, Corne de Koning. Lane 5 for Italy, Daniele Stefanoni. And lane 6 for Germany, Paul Umbach.
Italy 1, Latvia, France, Netherlands, Italy 2, Germany, attention,
There's the buzzer, and there we have it, the A final for the PR2 men's single sculls getting started. Looks like a tricky start for Boisseau of France, getting slightly left behind there in the first 50 meters or so. But we'll see how the rest of the field settle into their pace. Conor de Koning, the first one to poke his nose out in front, up there at 39 strokes a minute, trying to establish a bit of a lead. World famous Conor de Koning, who we've often seen in the PR2 mixed double previously with Anneke van der Meer, now here in the single. We'll see how he progresses through the course of this race. He's at 34 now compared to the second place Italian Daniele Stefanoni, up there at 43 strokes a minute.
I proszę Państwa, wystartował kolejny finał A. Tutaj zawodnicy walczą o to najwyższe trofeum, czyli złoty medal Pucharu Świata. Na prowadzeniu po tych pierwszych kilkuset metrach fantastyczny Holender, de Koning, który jest znany na arenie międzynarodowej. W Poznaniu zmienił konkurencję, wcześniej startował w konkurencjach mieszanych, tutaj dzisiaj w Poznaniu startuje na jedynce. W biegu testowym zdecydowanie zwyciężył, zapewniając sobie ponad 10 sekund przewagi, tak więc wydaje się, że tutaj w finale on będzie miał dużo do powiedzenia. Jednak warto wziąć pod uwagę, że w biegach testowych zawodnicy mają różne strategie i niektórych strategią jest po prostu zobaczyć, jak mają się inni. Tak więc zobaczymy tutaj, czy jego konkurenci będą mieli z nim szansę, będą walczyli o to złoto.
Well, coming out towards 400 meters in, de Koning still out in front, trying to build a little bit of a margin between himself and the Italian, who's at 36 strokes a minute, alongside him, just over half a length down. We'll see how this develops. De Koning, of course, set the world best time for this category here in Poznan in 2019. 8:28.4 is the world best time he set then. So we'll be keeping our eyes on the splits through the course of this race to see whether he's going to top that in this A final today. So question is, can he get to the halfway mark with a time of less than 4 minutes 14? So that's what we're looking for at the 1,000-meter mark, where we'll find Robert shortly. But passing through the 500, we can see that Conor de Koning's extended to over a full-length lead and not managing to shake the other Italian, Gianfilippo Mirabile, over in lane 1.
Proszę Państwa, już 600 metrów tego wyścigu za nami i tutaj na prowadzeniu, tak jak nikogo nie zaskakuje, właśnie Holender, ale za nim bardzo wysoko zawodnicy z Włoch. Właśnie w biegu testowym tak to wyglądało. Na pierwszym miejscu Holender, na kolejnych dwóch Włosi. Zobaczymy, czy tutaj w tym rozdaniu coś się zmieni.
Well, coming out towards 750, de Koning looking good for gold at the moment, just over a length up on the currently level two Italian athletes, Daniele Stefanoni and Gianfilippo Mirabile. So let's see how their pace progresses towards halfway. Robert, do you think we might be on for a world best pace here?
Well, it's entirely possible, isn't it? And we've got the conditions, we've got the warm weather, that reduces the viscosity of the water, we've got the class, the field, we've got Conor de Koning, who has been right at the top of his boat classes throughout his para-rowing career. Comes into this competition as double world champion in this particularly recently added boat class to the world rowing program. He comes in as Paralympic silver medalist last year in Tokyo with his former partner, and he again is going to be doubling up in the double sculls tomorrow. So he's got all the factors in his favour, and he is absolutely stamping his authority on this race, as we've already heard. And his arch rival, Daniele Stefanoni, is running him a close second, the Italian, who's taken bronze behind de Koning on two separate occasions at Linz and the previous year at Plovdiv in 2018. So the form book running absolutely true as the leading athletes approach 1,000 meters.
Na 1000 metrów zdecydowanie prowadzi w tej chwili Holender, który z przewagą prawie dwóch łodzi nad Włochami z toru 5 i z toru 1. Daleko z tyłu pozostali zawodnicy. Czas, który osiągnął, jest naprawdę na 1000 metrów bardzo dobry i kto wie, czy te warunki dzisiejsze nie dadzą szansy na to, żeby ustanowić nowy rekord toru. Bardzo dobrze wiosłują z dużą swobodą.
Yeah, still De Koning leading for the Netherlands and Stefanoni for Italy in second place. And Gianfilippo Mirabile, this second Italian athlete over on the far side. Now, he is more experienced in the mixed double scull. In fact, I think this is his first appearance in the single and heading right now for a bronze medal. But let's not forget the other three athletes taking part, because all of them, Mikovic for Latvia, Boisto for France and Umbach for Germany, all making their international debut here in Poznan. And I'm sure it's going to be the first progression into a successful international career in this particular boat class. De Koning leads the way down to 1500.
De Koning moving through the third quarter in style. Before he got into rowing, he played wheelchair football at the international level, motivated by team building activities. He got into rowing, and his former coach, impressed by his erg scores, saw potential, and he certainly proved that he is a world-class athlete, and he's moving through the course at a long 30 strokes per minute on his way to capture the gold. Just behind him, well, the battle between these two Italian scullers is on. Italy won, that's Mirabile, takes it up to 40 strokes per minute. Can he close the gap on his countryman Stefanoni?
Jeszcze 550 metrów do mety ma prowadzący Holender Cornelis de Koning. On wyraźnie prowadzi, 25 metrów mniej więcej przewagi nad dwoma Włochami. Tu jedzie Daniele Stefanoni. On już w tym momencie mija celownik 1500 metrów i tam po drugiej stronie toru na pierwszym torze Gianfilippo Mirabile i Włosi tak jakby wzięli w objęcia Holendra, cały czas pilnują drugiej, trzeciej pozycji, między sobą będą właściwie walczyć. Wątpię, żeby któryś zdecydował się tutaj na szalony finisz i dogonienie rozpędzonego reprezentanta Holandii, który daleko, daleko jest z przodu.
Absolutely incredible. These two Italian scullers just separated by 3 meters. It continues to be Stefanoni with the lead, and then Peter up at the front, De Koning all the way.
Yeah, the class act of PR2 racing, regardless of which boat he's in. Conny de Koning just sets such a high standard for everybody to aspire to. He was the holder of the world best time back in 2019. His time to the 1,000 here, 4:07. Time to 1,500, 6:13. He is on world best time pace, so we'll see how this pans out with just 250 meters to go. He's strode down to 30 strokes a minute, so he's eased off the throttle ever so slightly because he's in that gold medal position, but let's see what that does to time in this fourth quarter.
Proszę Państwa, już niecałe 150 metrów do końca tego wyścigu i tutaj bez niespodzianki na prowadzeniu wciąż fantastyczny Holender i tutaj wydaje się, że już nic nie jest zabrać mu w stanie tego zwycięstwa. Proszę Państwa, ostatnie chwyty tego zawodnika i wciąż w tempie 29 pociągnięć na minutę. Mniej więcej tak jak reszta stawki, chociaż są zawodnicy, którzy wiosłują znacznie wyżej. Na przykład Włoch, który płynie tuż obok na torze piątym. W tej chwili 40, nawet 41 pociągnięć na minutę. Tak więc zupełnie inna strategia wiosłowania.
Mirabile 2 years younger than Stefanoni, but they're bow for bow coming into the last 100 meters of this race. Conny de Koning, though, is looking good for gold. We'll see which of the Italians will take silver and the other bronze. Last few strokes then, and we're going to find out whether it's another world best time set here on the Poznan course in 2022. Conny de Koning of the Netherlands secures the gold medal. Last couple of strokes, and I believe it's going to be Stefanoni just a fraction of a second ahead of Mirabile for silver and bronze. It is Daniele Stefanoni takes silver, Gianfilippo Mirabile the bronze medal. And I can tell you, it is a world best time, a new world best time, which is 8 seconds quicker than his previous time set here in Poznan. Conny de Koning sets a time of 8:20.61. Fantastic performance from him. Last few seconds, and we'll see the remainder of the athletes come into the closing stages of this A-final for the PR2 men's singles.
Proszę Państwa, gratulacje dla pierwszych 3 zawodników i warto dodać, że Holender de Koning ustanowił nowy najlepszy rekord świata, 8 minut 20 sekund, czyli o 8 sekund lepszy czas niż jego poprzedni rekord z 2019 roku.
Last few strokes there, we saw Paul Umbach cross the line for 4th place. This is Chris Mickiewicz for Latvia in 5th. And then, folks, coming to the last 200 meters, let's give it up for Kevin Boisseau of France to close out his A final here today at the 2022 World Rowing Cup 2 Poznan. Let's give it up, folks, for Kevin Boisseau of France coming to the closing stages here. Last few strokes for him. We'll see him finish up this A final for the PR2 men's single sculls. The victory ceremony for the PR2 women's single sculls.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali konkurencji paraolimpijskiej PR2 jedynek kobiet.
Winner of the silver medal, representing Ukraine,
Srebrna medalistka, reprezentantka Ukrainy,
Svetlana Bohuslawska. Winner of the gold medal, representing Ireland,
złota medalistka, reprezentantka Irlandii,
Katie O'Brien. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla wszystkich medalistek.
Next race on the course then, it's the A final for the PR3 women's pair. We have lane 1 for Italy and lane 2 for France.
Proszę Państwa, kolejny finał to dwójki kobiet w kategorii PR3.
Lane 1 representing Italy, Ludovica Tramontin and Greta Elisabeth Mutti. And lane 2 representing France, Ella Alberdi and Erika Sozo.
Proszę Państwa, na torze pierwszym osada z Włoch, natomiast na torze drugim płyną francuski.
Italy, France, attention, red light,
After what felt like an eternity of tension there, we're underway now with this A final for the PR3 women's pair. It's a two-boat race for gold here. Italy in lane 1, France in lane 2. Let's see how they get underway. It certainly looks like a good, fast, very fast start for Italy. Already a length up into this first 100 meters. 39 strokes a minute their pace, set there by Greta Elizabeth Mutti in the stroke seat, supported by Ludovica Tramontin. So we'll see how this pace settles in once they start to find their rhythm to sustain them for the full 2K course. They certainly have had a fast crack at the whip there. We'll see whether they're on world best pace. It's great to see world best times. 2 fallen already in the 2 races we've had, the 2A finals we've had so far this afternoon.
Proszę Państwa, i wystartowały zawodniczki w konkurencji PR3 dwójki kobiet. Pierwsze chwyty były minimalnie szybsze w wykonaniu Francuzek, jednak to Włoszki od razu weszły na prowadzenie. Pierwsze chwyty wykonały w tempie 41-42 pociągnięcia, a teraz już zmniejszyły tempo i tempem 35 mkną po zwycięstwo w tym biegu i złoty medal Pucharu Świata. Proszę Państwa, już jeszcze przed linią 500 metrów mają prawie 70 metrów przewagi. No niesamowita różnica między tymi dwoma osadami. Przypomnę, że konkurencja PR3 jest przeznaczona dla wioślarzy, którzy mają minimalną funkcję w nogach, tułowiu, ramionach i mogą korzystać z przeszuwanego wózka. Ta kategoria obejmuje również wioślarzy, którzy mają problemy ze wzrokiem. Tak więc proszę Państwa, zawodnicy na linii 416 metrów i tutaj wciąż z każdym kolejnym chwytem powiększa się przewaga Włoszech. W tej chwili już 90 metrów, więc tu wydaje się, że ten bieg jest już rozstrzygnięty.
Well, it's a cracking pace from the Italians. They haven't slowed whatsoever. Still at 33 in the boat speed with them as they go through 500. We'll see what their pace is as it pops up in a moment on to the tables here. 1:59.08 to 500. The world best time was 7:39, so not quite on world best pace yet. We'll see how they progress through the remaining 3 quarters of this 2K course. Coming up to 600 meters in, they're certainly looking great out in front. We'll see how France progress through this 500-meter market in just a moment. Looking good, still winding into that rhythm. They're up there at 33, 34 strokes a minute. They've got quite a margin if they want to contest for that gold medal because it's over 100 meters now already at this early stage that Italy have built up for themselves. So a cracking start to this race. But Italy now going through 750. So let's hear from Robert.
Thanks very much, Pete. Yes, Italy leading the way home ahead of France in this 2-boat A final of the PR3 women's pair. Another very recent addition to the world rowing programme at this level. And these are 2 new lineups representing Italy and France. The athletes in each boat represent newcomers to the sport in the stroke seat with, in the bow seat with experienced athletes at stroke. In fact, Mutti, the Italian stroke, took part in the Paralympics as part of the Italian PR3 mixed cox 4. Sozo, the stroke athlete in the French boat, well, she was a bronze medalist on that occasion. And it's become quite evident from seeing the early stages of this race that actually the French have had considerable steering difficulties, whether it was the tension induced by their first A final together, really tense moments here, but what they're doing, they steered over into the neighbouring lane, then they had to correct to come back on course, and that has inevitably slowed them against the pace set by the leading Italians. Italy reaches the halfway mark, and as you heard earlier, several lengths of clear water, so Italy able to cruise home, and I suspect that on this occasion at least, even though it's a recent addition to the programme, we may not quite be seeing a world best time, but that's all still to come. Halfway mark, Italy leading France.
Na 1000 metrów Włoszki z ogromną przewagą. Zawodniczki z Francji na pierwszych 200 metrach miały ogromne problemy, przesterowały się, musiały wrócić na swój tort, musiała nastąpić jakaś awaria techniczna i teraz bardzo spokojnie płyną właściwie już bez ścigania, chcą dopłynąć do mety. To jest bardzo niskie tempo, 30 uderzeń na minutę. Włoszki, które odpłynęły, one też już spokojnie kontrolują i spokojnie zmierzają do mety na pierwszym miejscu.
Well, I'm pleased to report that as the French pair passes us, Alberti and Sozo really have now settled into a nice, easy rhythm, 31 strokes a minute. But the power is not quite there in the same way as it is in the Italian boat, and that means a marked difference in the boat speed as Italy now builds on their way down towards 1,500 meters, and Colleen.
Final quarter of the race, just looking to close out that third quarter, and what a third quarter it has been from Italy, really leading from the start. Greta Muti with such experience in that stroke seat. So in the Paralympics, where she finished 5th overall in the mixed coxed 4, the European champs finishing 4th, so just off the podium in 2021, and winning the European champs in that same event category back in 2020. And the list goes on of accolades. So that rhythm that she's setting down, really working for her, the experience translating. Italy leads France.
Mimo że sprawa zwycięstwa w tym wyścigu jest rozstrzygnięta, bo na 500 metrów dosłownie przed metą Włoszki mają ogromną przewagę, ponad 150 metrów nad Francuzkami, to jednak prowadząca ekipa z Półwyspu Apenińskiego płynie bardzo skoncentrowana. Nie ma tu rozglądania się na boki, nie ma podziwiania przyrody, rejonów maltajskich. Wszyscy na pokładzie tej łodzi, wszystkie zawodniczki bardzo skoncentrowane, bardzo myślą o tym, żeby spokojnie dopłynąć do mety. Nie lekceważą rywale, które teraz dopiero zbliżają się, jeszcze mają dobre 60-70 metrów do dystansu 1500 metrów na biało-granatowo ubrane francuski. One miały, jak mówił Tomek, problemy techniczne. Teraz płyną bardzo powoli, wolniutko, jeszcze nie dopłynęły do 1500 metrów, a tam daleko ekipa Włoch.
Italy looking for those red buoys, well on their way to capture the gold, closing in now on their final 250 meters. France into their race rhythm, of course, that cadence. They recovered from the first 500 meters or so, first 750 meters with some steering issues. Well now into the last quarter of their race, but Peter looking so good for Italy as they close out.
Yeah, they've been like a metronome all the way through the course of this race, just ticking it over consistently, so consistently, at 33 strokes a minute. And you can see on the big screen here, Greta Elizabeth Muti on the left-hand side in the stroke seat, just plugging away. Ludovica Tramontane, just an odd peek around once in a while. Obviously, eyes in the boat most of the time, but just checking that their blade work's working, where they are in relation to distances. You frequently see that the bow person in a boat is the one calling the shots in terms of a push or anything like that. But they're into the last 50 meters here and looking good for gold.
Proszę Państwa, i ostatnie metry w wykonaniu Włoszek. Tutaj zawodniczki tak jak rozpoczęły, tempem 32-34, tak samo kończą i prędkość łodzi również podobna, około 4 metry na sekundę. 250 metrów przewagi nad Francuzkami. Niesamowita różnica między tymi dwoma osadami. Francuski kończą już ten wyścig, zostało im jeszcze 250 metrów do końca. Tempo wiosłowania tej osady to 30 pociągnięć na minutę.
Well, they've got the gold medal there for Italy in the PR3 women's pair. They kept rowing through the line there, I think, just to be sure that they'd crossed it, and before they decided to wind it down to take a well-earned breather. The temperature really soaring out there. It's 32 degrees nearly already this afternoon. But folks in the grandstand, give a huge round of applause to Ella Alberdi and Erika Sozo of France coming to the last 100 meters of their A-final here for the PR3 women's pair. Last 50 meters now, Ella Alberdi and Erika Sozo for France take second place in this A-final for the PR3 women's pair. They've had a great race, giving it absolutely everything, coming up towards the line here. 31 strokes a minute, and they've shown their best here, representing France. The the victory ceremony for the PR2 men's single sculls.
Proszę Państwa, ceremonia wręczenia medali konkurencji paraolimpijskiej PR2 jedynek mężczyzn.
Winner of the bronze medal, representing Italy,
Zdobywca brązowego medalu to reprezentant Włoch.
Gianfilippo Mirabile. Winner of the silver medal, representing Italy,
Zdobywca srebrnego medalu to reprezentant Włoch.
Daniele Stefanoni. Winner of the gold medal, representing the Netherlands,
Złoty medalista to reprezentant Holandii.
Conne de Koning. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla wszystkich medalistów.
We move on now to the A final for the PR3 men's pair. Lining up here we have India, France, Ukraine and Italy.
Proszę Państwa, i kolejny finał, a tym razem w konkurencji PR3 dwójek mężczyzn. I tutaj mamy 4 osady: Indię, Francję, Ukrainę i Włochy.
Lane 1 representing India, Narayana Konganapale and Kuldeep Singh. Lane 2 for France, Jérôme Hamelin and Laurent Cadeau. Lane 3 for Ukraine, Andrei Civic and Dimitro Jerez. And lane 4 for Italy, Tommaso Schettino and Luca Conti.
Proszę Państwa, 4 zawodników powalczy o 3 medale Pucharu Świata. Na torze pierwszym osada z Indii, na torze drugim Francuzi, na torze trzecim reprezentacja Ukrainy i na torze czwartym reprezentacja Włoch.
Ukraine, Italy. Attention. Red light.
There we have the start. We're underway with the A final for the PR3 men's pair. Exciting stuff here. We've seen a couple of records fall already, and the current holders of the world best time for this event are already surging out to an early lead here. Hamelan and Caddo up at 45 strokes a minute. Some great technical prowess being demonstrated on the water. They're already a length ahead of the rest of the field, who are pretty much level, coming up towards 150 or so meters in. Caddo and Hamelan already continuing to pull away.
Proszę Państwa, wystartowali, kolejny finał, a już w drodze po medale. I tutaj bardzo mocny start w wykonaniu Francuzów. 41 pociągnięć na minutę i oni wciąż utrzymują to tempo. W tej chwili po zaledwie kilkuset metrach mają 20 metrów przewagi, tak więc niesamowita dominacja tej osady tutaj w Poznaniu. Proszę tylko mi pozwolić przypomnieć, że ta osada ustanowiła najlepszy światowy czas. 7 minut 7 sekund w tej konkurencji podczas tych regat Pucharu Świata w Poznaniu, tak więc Francuzi tutaj przyjechali w naprawdę dobrej dyspozycji. Na drugim miejscu w tej chwili płynie reprezentacja Ukrainy, płynąca tuż obok Francuzów, ale ta osada już jest tak daleko, że nawet ciężko Ukraińcom patrzeć, gdzie są Francuzi.
400 meters down, Hamelan and Caddo of France pulling further ahead, just extending this margin with every stroke. They've strode down to 38 strokes a minute, still overrating the rest of the field by 3 to 4 pips. It's an amazing start for these guys. They're about to pass through the 500. Let's see how their split turns out. They set the world best time in the previous round of this event here in Poznan at this very World Cup, 7:07.60. So we'll see what pace they're on for, certainly when they get towards halfway. They've just done a 1:40.44 to 500 and are building over 50 meters now ahead of the closest contender for silver medal, which is Ukraine.
Proszę Państwa, na linii 500 metrów 9 sekund przewagi, tak więc tutaj Francuzów interesuje nie tylko zwycięstwo, ale oni chcą niesamowite zwycięstwo w tym biegu, tak więc naprawdę myślę, że ten wyścig będzie fascynujący. Jeżeli chodzi o drugą pozycję, cały czas Ukraina, na miejscu trzecim Indie i tutaj proszę Państwa, bardzo dobry występ tej osady. W tej chwili płyną na bardzo wyrównanej pozycji z osadą z Ukrainy, więc wydaje się, że to między tymi dwoma osadami będzie walka na ostatnich metrach właśnie o srebrny medal Pucharu Świata. Tutaj widzę, że reprezentant Ukrainy obraca się, patrzy, gdzie są Indie. W tej chwili Ukraina minimalnie z przodu.
Well, Robert, France are almost certain to run away with this, but who's your money on for silver and bronze?
Well, if the form book from yesterday's test race is anything to go by, I think Ukraine could take silver, but it could be evens between India and Italy for bronze. The Italians recorded the faster time in yesterday's race, but as we saw after the 500 split, it was India who were holding on to third position. But my money is obviously on Hamelan and Caddo. What a class act they are. They were more than 30 seconds faster than any of the other pairs in yesterday's test race, and it was only a test race, and they still secured a world best time. And they're going like a rocket at the moment. A new partnership for this particular World Cup. Jérôme Hamelan, a bronze medalist in this event 3 years ago in Linz. Laurent Caddo, extremely accomplished athlete, has had 2 careers, one as an able-bodied athlete before moving into para-rowing, and he has medaled at the topmost level and is looking set for another medal here in Poznan.
Francuzi zdecydowanie prowadzą, tak jak w biegu próbnym, zdecydowanie popłynęli i wygrali go. Tak, i teraz na 1000 metrów mają olbrzymią przewagę. Zaraz za nimi Ukraina i osada z Indii. Oni walczą w tej chwili o podział medali między srebrnym a brązowym i wydaje się, że w tej chwili Ukraińcy odrobinę są z przodu i chcą zabezpieczyć się przed atakiem osady Indii na ostatnich metrach. Wracając do Francuzów, wydaje się, że znowu płyną po najlepszy czas tych regat. Na 1000 metrów czas 3 minuty 24 sekundy. Wszystko wskazuje na to, że padnie nowy rekord.
Four boat field moving rapidly out to 1500 and Colleen.
It's an incredible race that's developing here. No doubt the French on their way to capture the gold, or at least at this point in the race, it's looking really good for them. Hamela and Cadeau of France. But then just behind them, well, that Indian crew, Robert, that you mentioned, they're still running third at the moment. But in hot pursuit behind them are the Italians. So it's France holding first, Ukraine holding second, then back to India and Italy.
Za chwilę celownik 1500 metrów minie duet francuski Laurent Cadeau i Jérôme Hamelin. Właśnie w tym momencie to uczynili i mogą spokojnie patrzeć, co dzieje się za nimi tam daleko. Jakieś 100 metrów straty mają Ukraińcy. No oni płyną na torze trzecim w żółto-niebieskim stroju. Andrii Siewicz oraz Dmytro Heres. No oni w tej chwili dopiero w tym momencie będą mijać celownik 1500 metrów. Później są Hindusi i na czwartym miejscu dopiero na czwartym Włosich. Po nich można było się więcej spodziewać. Oni w tym momencie dopiero mijają celownik, a my patrzymy daleko z przodu ekipa Francji.
Well, the French are well on their way to capture that gold. Ukraine just behind them, and India, Pete, may well get on the podium ahead of Italy.
That would be an amazing result for India getting on the podium, but I just can't get over this amazing performance by Hamelin and Cadeau. So we'll see what their times do. 3:24 through halfway, that would turn into a 6:48, which would be nearly 20 seconds quicker than the world best time they set previously, if they've managed to hold that pace through this second 1000.
Proszę Państwa, niesamowita forma Francuzów. Czyżby płynęli po kolejny rekord świata? Wszystko wskazuje, że tak. Ostatnie 100 metrów dzieli tych zawodników od linii mety. Na pewno mają już złoto. Pytanie, czy z nowym rekordem świata? Kolejni zawodnicy to reprezentanci Ukrainy na trzecim miejscu. W tej chwili Indie, co jest wielkim zaskoczeniem, jeżeli chodzi o formę tego państwa. Ale tutaj, proszę Państwa, nasze oczy kierują się na tor numer 2, gdzie właśnie kończą Francuzi swój bieg.
Coming in to cross the line then, Jérôme Hamelin, Laurent Cadeau, gold here in the A final for the PR3 men's pair. What an amazing result. We'll wait a few moments to find out their result as we cast our eyes back to the current second place Ukraine, having a great race here. Battle still on for bronze. India just ahead of Italy. We'll see how this turns out as they come up towards the line. Ukraine giving it absolutely everything. 35 strokes a minute here. India at 35, but it's Italy. We so often see this from the Italians. They have some great sprint finishes. They've gone to 41 strokes a minute to try and take bronze from India. Last few strokes then, Ukraine's Andrei Civic and Dmytro Herez take the silver medal here in Poznan 2022. 2 lengths nearly ahead of India, who hold on to the bronze medal, a canvas ahead of Italy for 4th place. What a result there. And it is another world best time, 6:52.08, set by France, beating their previous world best time from the preliminary race earlier in competition by 20-odd seconds. Fantastic performance from them. The victory ceremony for the PR3 women's pair.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali, konkurencja paraolimpijska PR3 dwójki kobiet.
Winners of the gold medal.
Zdobywczynie złotego medalu.
Italy!
Włoszki!
Italy represented by Ludovica Tramonte. And Greta Elisabeth Muti. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla naszych medalistek.
Next race then, it's the A final for the lightweight women's single sculls. We have Canada, Switzerland, Canada, USA, Australia and Germany.
Proszę Państwa, kolejny bieg to finał, a w konkurencji jedynek kobiet kategorii lekkiej. I tutaj 6 zawodniczek walczy o złoty medal Pucharu Świata. Kanada, Szwajcaria, Kanada, Stany Zjednoczone, Australia i Niemcy.
In lane 1, representing Canada, Carissa Riley. In lane 2 for Switzerland, Olivia Naht. Lane 3 for Canada, Jill Moffat. Lane 4 for the USA, Mary Jones. In lane 5 for Australia, Georgia Nesbitt. And in lane 6 for Germany, Marie-Louise Draeger.
Proszę Państwa, na torze pierwszym popłynie reprezentantka Kanady, na torze drugim Szwajcarka, na torze trzecim kolejna zawodniczka z Kanady, na torze czwartym Stany Zjednoczone, na torze piątym Australia i na torze szóstym Niemcy. 15 sekund do startu.
Germany. Attention.
There we have it. It's a quick few strokes for Marie-Louise Draeger, clearly looking to get her bow ball out in front first. It's tough to choose who's made the better of that start. Mary Jones is looking good in one of the central lanes. Carissa Riley for Canada over on the far side, level with Draeger though. Those two bow balls just ever so slightly out in front compared to the athletes in the middle of the field. So we'll see how they settle into this race rhythm. Highest rating we see out there, though, is the Swiss athlete, Olivia Naht, who's still up there over 40 strokes a minute, 42, 43. The Aussie trying to keep terms as well up there at 40 strokes a minute. But the leaders, Draeger and Riley, trying to push out. They've got half a length as it stands coming up towards 200 down.
Proszę Państwa, i wystartowały tutaj pierwsze metry niesamowicie wyrównane. Wszystkie zawodniczki wiosłują wysokim tempem, natomiast najwyższym reprezentantka Australii. Chociaż na pierwszym miejscu w tej chwili reprezentantka Niemiec. 34-35 pociągnięć na minutę i tak to ona w tej chwili wypływa na pierwszą pozycję. Na drugim miejscu Kanadyjka, na trzecim reprezentantka Stanów Zjednoczonych, ale na tym etapie wyścigu te różnice są naprawdę niewielkie. Zawodniczki zbliżają się do linii 500 metrów.
Great side-on shot of all of the athletes here we can see on the big screen. A bit of a zoom in there on Jill Moffat and Olivia Naht for Canada and Switzerland. You can see very different sculling styles there, but both working just as effectively as each other because they're level, but starting to push out into the lead though. It's on the near side, Marie-Louise Draeger going with a Mary Jones. So that's the 1-2 as it stands coming up towards 500. So we'll see what the splits look like here. Mary Jones looked like she was dropping off the back of the pack slightly there, so she's put in a bit of a concerted push and pulled ahead, taking Georgia Nesbitt with her, who was at the back in 6th place through 250 and is now in 3rd in this A final for the lightweight women's singles. Let's see the splits. Not much separating 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, but it's Draeger going out nearly 2 lengths ahead with Mary Jones trying to go with her. So the field's starting to spread out coming through 600.
Proszę Państwa, 700 metrów już za zawodniczkami i tutaj naprawdę niewielkie różnice. Niemcy, Stany Zjednoczone i na miejscu trzecim Australia, tak więc reprezentantka Kanady z toru trzeciego nieco spadła na 4. miejsce, jednak na tym etapie wyścigu wciąż nie są to duże różnice. Ja przypomnę tylko, że wyścigi w wadze lekkiej charakteryzują się właśnie tym, że oprócz przygotowania sportowego zawodniczki muszą zwrócić uwagę na to, aby utrzymać niską wagę ciała, więc jest to dodatkowy czynnik, który tutaj wpływa na to, jak rozegra się ten bieg. Kolejne metry za nami i z przodu zdecydowanie reprezentantka Niemiec.
Well, Mary has a quick look to her left just to see where the German athlete Marie-Louise Draeger is, and she can see that she's not that far behind. Half a length separating these two leaders coming into sight of our commentators at halfway. It's quite a push these two at the front of the field are putting in here early on, Robert.
Yes, and all credit to Mary-Louise Drager for hanging on to this lead, but she appears to be flagging a little because Nesbitt and Jones have upped the rate to try and come back on the Germans' advantage. Mary-Louise Drager coming into this final as the reigning world champion. She took gold at Linz 3 years ago, and we haven't had a senior world championships then for obvious reasons, but she's been a 3 times Olympian, a whole string of world medals in the single and the double, and here she is hanging on by half a length ahead of Mary Jones of the USA, the American who recorded the fastest time of these 6 in yesterday's heats. Germany leading the USA.
Na 1000 metrów Niemka prowadzi, ale już z minimalną przewagą nad Amerykanką. Zaraz za nimi Australijka, Kanadyjka z toru trzeciego, Szwajcarka i Kanadyjka na torze pierwszym. Niemka jest mistrzynią świata z Linz 2019 roku, ale wszystko wskazuje na to, że ten bardzo mocny start jest okupiony teraz właśnie tym, że musi troszeczkę odpuścić, zregenerować siły, a w tej chwili Amerykanka wydaje się, że przechodzi na prowadzenie. Zobaczymy, jak ten bieg się rozstrzygnie. Tutaj będzie walka o ten złoty medal chyba między tymi dwoma zawodniczkami.
Mary-Louise Drager, 41 years of age. She is slipping back against the power of the younger American because Mary Jones has taken the lead for the first time in this A final of the lightweight women's single sculls. And a great race in prospect in the closing stages, Colleen.
Mary Jones with more of a slow and measured start in the prior round and into the heat. It was really the 1,000-meter mark where she took off and moved from third at the 500, second at the 1,000, and then first, at the 1,500-meter mark. So she has a bit of a patient race strategy, and we're seeing that just again. So she's overhauled the German. It's Mary Jones running first in that gold medal contention position, Germany running second, and then over to the Aussies running third.
Zmieniła się sytuacja na torze. Na razie na prowadzeniu Amerykanka Mary Jones, płynąca na torze czwartym. Z tego co widzę, tutaj jeszcze nie dopłynęły do dystansu 1500 metrów. Na drugim miejscu jest chyba Australijka w tej chwili Georgia Nesbitt. I trzecia właśnie wcześniej prowadząca Mary-Louise Drager. Ona trenuje cały czas w Rostocku. Urodziła się w Lubece, no ale chyba Drager jeszcze jest na drugim miejscu. Drager broni drugiego miejsca. Trzecia jest Australijka. Będzie ciekawy wyścig, bo tam jeszcze jest Kanadyjka, która bardzo dobrze płynie, Carissa O'Reilly, no i będzie ciekawie jeszcze do mety niespełna 440 metrów, a tam na prowadzeniu Amerykanka, później Niemka oraz Australijka.
They've just come by us at the 1,500-meter mark, now moving toward the final 250 meters. It continues to be Mary Jones, 33 strokes per minute. She's the quickest moving boat on the course, and her biggest threat is Germany and, well, Australia, Pete, too, both of those battling behind her.
Yeah, this is amazing. Georgia Nesbitt, such a strong race strategy here to be so far behind through the first couple of 100 meters, but then just use that middle 1,000 to chug her way gradually forward up the field, now level with Germany's Marie-Louise Drager contesting silver and bronze between them. Question will be, can we see a resurgence from Jill Moffat into these closing stages? Mary Jones, though, just looks so good for gold.
Proszę Państwa, co za niesamowita strategia Amerykanki. Pierwsze 1000 metrów przepłynęła na drugim, trzecim miejscu, natomiast gdy tylko minęła tą linię 1000 metrów, zdecydowanie przyspieszyła, podkręciła tempo i w tej chwili tempem 34 pociągnięcia na minutę mknie po zwycięstwo i już ma 20 metrów przewagi, tak więc wydaje się, że ona już nikomu tego zwycięstwa tutaj nie odda. W tej chwili o srebrny medal duża walka między Niemką i reprezentantką Australii. Która z nich zachowała więcej sił na te ostatnie metry? Dowiemy się już za chwilę. Na prowadzeniu wciąż bez zmian. Kto zajmie srebro? Kto zajmie brąz?
Here we go then. Mary Jones for the USA is looking so good for gold, but the sprint for silver is hotting up. Georgia Nesbitt trying to move through Drager. Not much of a response from Drager as yet. Nesbitt goes to 36, now 37, but coming in to cross the line to take the gold medal here in the A final of the lightweight women's singles. Mary Jones for the USA. Silver goes to Nesbitt of Australia, a length ahead of Drager for Germany with bronze. Fourth place then is Jill Moffat for Canada, and then fifth place Olivia Natt for Switzerland, a couple of lengths up ahead of Carissa Riley coming in for sixth place. What a great conclusion there. Mary Jones for the USA winning that in 7:32.08, taking the gold ahead of Nesbitt for Australia with silver and Drager of Germany for bronze. The victory ceremony for the PR3 men's pair.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali, konkurencja paraolimpijska PR3, dwójka mężczyzn.
Winners of the bronze medal.
Zdobywcy brązowego medalu,
India!
reprezentanci Indii.
India represented by Narayana Konganapale and Kuldeep Singh. Winners of the silver medal,
Zdobywcy srebrnego medalu,
Ukraine!
reprezentanci Ukrainy.
Ukraine represented by Dmytro Herez and Andriy Civic. Winners of the gold medal,
Zdobywcy złotego medalu,
France!
reprezentanci Francji.
France represented by Laurent Cadeau and Jérôme Hamelin. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla wszystkich medalistów.
Potrzeba klucza. Potrzeba klucza.
Well, it's time for the penultimate race of the day here, the A final for the lightweight men's single sculls. We've got Uruguay, New Zealand, 2 Polish athletes, Ireland and Bulgaria.
Proszę Państwa, kolejny finał, a dzisiejszego popołudnia to jedynka mężczyzn kategorii lekkiej i tutaj duże polskie emocje. Mamy reprezentantów Urugwaju, Nowej Zelandii, Irlandii, Bułgarii i 2 Polaków.
In lane 1, representing Uruguay, Felipe Cluver Ferreira. Lane 2 for New Zealand, Matthew Dunham. Lane 3 for Poland, Artur Mikolajczewski. Lane 4 for Poland, Jerzy Kowalski. Lane 5 for Ireland, Fintan McCarthy. And lane 6 for Bulgaria, Lazar Penev.
Uruguay 2, New Zealand, Poland 1, Poland 2, Ireland 1, Bulgaria, attention.
Here we go then, it's a rapid first stroke for Lazar Penev of Bulgaria. You could see on the big screen there, he really threw those blades backwards to launch his boat and take this early lead. Not by much, of course, because we're just going through the first 100 meters, but the fastest from the previous rounds, Artur Mikolajczewski, he's in lane 3. We'll see how this progresses because Jerzy Kowalski, his fellow countryman, in lane 4 is trying to contest that lead. Fintan McCarthy now pushing up into the lead. It's tough to choose in this first 150 or so meters who's going to push out into the medal-winning positions as they establish their race rhythms.
I wystartowali, proszę Państwa. 6 zawodników walczy o tytuł zwycięzcy i złoty medal Pucharu Świata. Proszę Państwa, pierwsze metry należały do reprezentanta Nowej Zelandii, jednak teraz po kolejnych 50 metrach wydaje się, że to reprezentant Irlandii jest na pierwszym miejscu, natomiast jeszcze ciężko w tej chwili powiedzieć, to są wciąż pierwsze metry tego wyścigu. Zawodnicy płyną na bardzo wysokich tempach, 38, nawet 40 pociągnięć na minutę. Jeżeli chodzi o Polaków, mamy Artura Mikołajczewskiego na torze 3 i Jurka Kowalskiego na torze 4, tak więc liczymy tutaj na fantastyczne wyniki Polaków. W poprzednich biegach widzieliśmy, że do Poznania przyjechali oni w fantastycznej formie i wiemy, że przyjechali tutaj do Poznania, aby biec o medale.
Well, McCarthy's had a great start here, nearly a length up ahead of the rest of the field, coming up towards the 500-meter mark. We'll see how things are going. Matthew Dunham not getting left behind, trying to go with him and close that margin down. Still up there at 39 strokes a minute. He's the highest rated athlete out there in terms of strokes per minute, only half a second behind McCarthy through the 500-meter mark. So things starting to settle now as the ratings start to drop. Fintan McCarthy dropping to 34. The Kiwi still up there, 38, 39, holding on to second place. But then it's tight for that bronze medal position between Kowalski, Penev, and over on the far, well, in the middle, Mikolajczewski and then Cluver Ferreira. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops into this second 500 meters. Dunham trying to push up and contest the lead now. That 38 strokes a minute he's holding is giving him the best boat speed, and he's starting to draw level with the Irishman coming through 750. So let's see how this develops. Robert, we've spoken about the Kiwis having slightly slower starts, but building that speed. Can McCarthy hold on to the lead?
Well, as the world and Olympic champion in the double scull, certainly Fintan McCarthy has got the cards in his favour. But you're absolutely right. Dunham for New Zealand is throwing everything he can at the leading Irishman, trying desperately to overhaul him. So every surge comes, then it slips back slightly, and it's still McCarthy hanging on to this lead, approaching the halfway mark.
W tej chwili na prowadzeniu cały czas mamy Irlandczyka, mistrza olimpijskiego z Tokio. Bezsprzecznie prowadzi w tej chwili na drugiej pozycji Nowozelandczyk, na trzeciej Polak Jurek Kowalski i miejmy nadzieję, że będzie walczył o ten medal. Przepraszam, to jest Artur Mikołajczewski, który jest na trzeciej pozycji. Tak, zdecydowanie teraz ta dwójka, Irlandczyk, Nowozelandczyk, Polak, Bułgar. Na pierwszym torze jeszcze bardzo mocno płynie Urugwajczyk i stawkę zamyka w tej chwili nasz zawodnik z toru trzeciego.
The positions unchanged as they move through the halfway mark. Fintan McCarthy leading the way home for Ireland. Matthew Dunham into the silver medal slot for New Zealand. And then the best of the two Polish scullers taking part in this race, Jerzy Kowalski, just half a second off his compatriot's time in today's semi-final. But Mikola Krzyzewski, who led the way in terms of the time ranking, slipping back down the field. And what we've seen is the lightweight doubles from last season, certainly for Poland, being split into singles. McCarthy has split temporarily with his former partner Paul O'Donovan while his medical career takes precedence. But the pace in this A final is absolutely white hot as McCarthy continues to hang on to the lead and 1500.
McCarthy hanging on to the lead and opening it up even more. He was the quickest moving boat on the course, at least for a moment. But this event just unbelievable as it's unfolding. It's New Zealand continuing to hold on to that second place position. And can the Polish sculler Kowalski hold it back from a charging Bulgaria?
Bardzo zacięty wyścig na razie na prowadzeniu Irlandczyk, ale tutaj bardzo dobrze także płynie z numerem 5, przepraszam, z numerem 2 Nowozelandczyk Dunham na drugim miejscu, na trzecim jest z numerem 6 Bułgar Penew, później jest z numerem 4 Jurek Kowalski. Artur Michajczewski spadł na ostatnie miejsce, bo jeszcze wcześniej jest Urugwajczyk Kluwer Ferreira, no ale tam z przodu walka Irlandczyka z Nowozelandczykiem, Polak z Bułgarem będzie walczyć o brązowy medal. Włączył się w to wszystko jeszcze Urugwajczyk, ależ będzie walka do końca, bo Jurek Kowalski potrafi finiszować na tych ostatnich metrach.
Fintan McCarthy on the hunt for the gold. What a push from Penev. He wants to get onto the podium, Pete. It'd take a lot to move into silver, but it's looking good for the bronze.
Yeah, he's looking good for the bronze, but I just can't believe this great race from McCarthy. Dunham's been a consistent 37 strokes a minute, but McCarthy has been gradually building the rating. He was at 33, then 35, then 36, and he's just now gone to 37 to keep building that pace. Coming into these red buoys, the sprint is on between these two for the gold medal.
Proszę Państwa, 250 metrów do końca tego wyścigu i to jest ten moment, kiedy polscy zawodnicy potrzebują waszego dopingu, więc mam nadzieję, że pojawią się zaraz okrzyki Jurek, Artur, oni teraz właśnie potrzebują waszych dopingów.
The race is really on here. McCarthy's throwing everything at it. He and Dunham are both at 40 strokes a minute, but Dunham is closing that gap down. They're nearly level now. It's going to come down to the wire. Every stroke in it, they're bow ball for bow ball into the last 40 meters here. And there's nothing to separate them. Dunham might be just pushing into the lead. He's found an extra gear, going to 42 strokes a minute. And now moving out in front, looking good for the gold medal. Coming up to the line here, Matthew Dunham for New Zealand takes the gold. A length ahead of Fintan McCarthy for silver. And then over on the far side, Kluwer Ferreira for bronze ahead of Penev for fourth. Crossing the line then for fifth place, Jerzy Kowalski ahead of Artur Michajczewski. For sixth place, closes out the A final for the lightweight men's single sculls. What an exciting conclusion. So close between Dunham and McCarthy, but Matthew Dunham manages to pull through to take gold for New Zealand, silver to Ireland, and then bronze to Uruguay. The victory ceremony for the lightweight women's single sculls.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali, konkurencja jedynek kobiet wagi lekkiej.
Winner of the bronze medal representing Germany,
Brązowa medalistka, reprezentantka Niemiec.
Marie-Louise Dreger. Winner of the silver medal representing Australia,
Srebrna medalistka, reprezentantka Australii.
Georgia Nesbitt. Winner of the gold medal, representing the United States of America,
Złota medalistka, reprezentantka Stanów Zjednoczonych.
Mary Jones. Let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla naszych medalistek.
Time now for the last race of our day. It's the A final of the lightweight men's quadruple sculls. We've got 3 boats lining up at the start. We've got Thailand, Denmark and Ukraine.
Proszę Państwa, ostatni finał dzisiejszego dnia, trzeciego dnia Pucharu Świata w wioślarstwie w konkurencji 4 podwójnych mężczyzn kategorii lekkiej. I tutaj 3 osady będą walczyły o medale. Tajlandia, Dania i Ukraina.
Lane 1 representing Thailand, Sonram Sinlapsahorn, Chanin Siriu Sombun, Sirakorn Wongpin, Nawamin Dechudomrat. Lane 2 for Denmark, Rasmus Konnerup, Johannes Jakobsen, Johan Poulsen and Marcus Lingersen. And lane 3 for Ukraine, Oleksiy Syabro, Roman Biadarov, Vyacheslav Yaknenko and Denis Dyachenko.
Thailand, Denmark, Ukraine. Attention.
Here we are then, the last race of the day. It's the A final for the lightweight men's quadruple sculls. Good clean start across these 3 boats contesting for the medals here today. Ukraine seem to have made the best of the start there, though. Denis Dyachenko keeping them up there at 43, 44 strokes a minute now. Will be looking to settle. They've only got a canvas up over Denmark and Thailand, looking rather level through this early 100 meters of the race. Both those boats at 41 strokes a minute. Denmark and Thailand pretty level here. Denmark trying to push ahead and then get back into the lead ahead of Ukraine.
Proszę Państwa, idealnie o 16:50:00 wystartował ostatni wyścig dzisiejszego dnia. 4 podwójna mężczyzn kategorii lekkiej. Najszybszy start w wykonaniu osady z Ukrainy. Proszę Państwa, tempo nawet do 50 pociągnięć na minutę. Takie były szybkie pierwsze chwyty tej osady. W tej chwili na prowadzeniu Dania, jednak tuż za nimi Ukraina i Tajlandia na tym etapie wyścigu, czyli na 350 metrach. Te różnice są naprawdę bardzo niewielkie. Minimalnie z przodu Dania już w tej chwili 2-3 metry przewagi, natomiast kulka w kulkę Ukraina i Tajlandia. W tym wyścigu jeszcze wiele może się wydarzyć. 100 metrów do linii 500 metrów.
Already coming up towards 500 in, Denmark have taken the lead. They're up there at 39 strokes a minute, stroked by Marcus William Lingersen, holding that high rating, and it's paying off because the boat speeds come with it. They're half a length ahead of Thailand now, who have moved up through Ukraine. So the fast-starting Ukrainians might be paying for that pressure that they put themselves under through the first few strokes, because Thailand's starting to move up the field, going with Denmark. So we'll see how this pans out as they pass through 600. Now I'm in Dechudomrat in the stroke seat of the Thai boat, holding them at 36. It's a good race rhythm. They're not letting the Danes run away with it, but they are starting to pull out in front of Ukraine. Coming up to 750 then, 38 strokes a minute for Denmark. I wonder if things are going to change around in the latter stages of this race. But for the last time today, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Robert Trahant-Jones.
Thanks very much, Pete. Yes, this final race of Poznan Saturday now reaching 750 metres in Denmark, leading this 3-boat final in the lightweight men's quadruple sculls, an event that is often seen as a training ground for athletes that are going to move into the Olympic boat class, the lightweight men's double. But of course, with the demise of that event after Paris 2024, it remains to be seen how this event for quads will pan out for the future. Right in the here and now, Denmark, unchanged from the crew that won the small final at last year's Under-23 World Championships in the Czech Republic, are leading the way by 1 boat length between Ukraine and Thailand.
Na 1000 metrów właśnie wpływają osady. Duńska, która zdecydowanie o długość łodzi prowadzi, tuż za nią osada Tajlandii i na 3. miejscu 1000 metrów przepływa Ukraina, ale to jest niewielka różnica. Osady mają między sobą stratę około 2 metrów, tylko zdecydowanie z przodu wysunięci Duńczycy, którzy pewnie płyną z przodu. Wydaje się, że kontrolują ten bieg na tyle dobrze technicznie, że wygląda, że z łatwością i to przychodzi, ale tak naprawdę jest to ogromna praca, którą muszą wykonać w dystansie, żeby zapewnić sobie walkę w ostatnim finale Pucharu Świata w Poznaniu o złoty medal.
Denmark continued to lead, as I said, won the small final at last year's under-23s, ahead of virtually this same Ukrainian crew who finished 8th. They've just brought in Roman Bidarov into the 2-seat, along with the 3 athletes who contested that final. But what a great race here for Thailand. 3 newcomers to world rowing. Only Wongpin Sirikorn in the 3-seat survives from the Olympic boat class double from last year. And Thailand really holding their own, holding silver ahead of Ukraine. Colleen.
Thailand, yes, holding that silver ahead of Ukraine, but moving very similar speeds. Well, maybe just starting to push back these two crews fairly close. Denmark, though, continuing to hold that lead and build upon it as they move now into the last quarter of the race, into the final 500 meters. The real race, though, happening behind them. Thailand, well, they don't quite like being that close to Ukraine. Bit of a push. Ukraine brings it up to 37.
Jeszcze niespełna 400 metrów do mety mają wioślarze. Na prowadzeniu Duńczycy, którzy na dystansie 1500 metrów mieli mniej więcej długość łodzi przewagi nad ekipą Tajlandii i później ci około 3/4 łodzi przewagi nad Ukraińcami. Walka zacięta o drugie miejsce. Rewelacyjni Tajlandczycy wcale tutaj nie odpuszczają Ukraińcom i kto wie, czy jeszcze tutaj nie namieszają. Niekoniecznie tu przyjechali po brązowy medal w tym wyścigu.
Pete, for the last time today, what a race from Denmark, and the battle continues just behind them.
Yeah, this is really tight for silver, isn't it? There's nothing separating Thailand and Ukraine. You can see on this side on shot, it's a canvas, but they're both, all 3 boats now, in fact, at 38 strokes a minute. Ukraine trying to wind it up a little bit further. They've gone to 39, 40. So things really hotting up into the last 150 meters.
Proszę Państwa, niesamowita walka na ostatnich metrach tego wyścigu. Wydaje się, że złoty medal jest już rozdany, natomiast to, co się dzieje o srebrno, Tajlandia czy Ukraina, która z tych dwóch osad zachowała więcej sił na ostatnie metry tego wyścigu? Teraz to jeszcze Ukraina podkręciła. Proszę Państwa, czyżby oni zdobyli srebrno?
Ukraine now drawing level with Thailand for that silver medal. It's going to be separated by a photo finish. Here come Denmark, though. Denmark are going to take the gold in this A final for the lightweight men's quads. And it is Ukraine by a hair's breadth ahead of Thailand for the silver medal. What an exciting conclusion that was. A hell of a sprint from Ukraine, going up to 41 strokes a minute in the end. They got the boat speed and moved up through Thailand. We'll wait for the official results, but Denmark have won that, winning themselves the gold medal. And the times are in 6:01.33 for Denmark ahead of Ukraine with a 6:03.25, just 0.2 of a second ahead of Thailand, who take 3rd place. The victory ceremony for the lightweight men's single sculls.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali, konkurencja jedynek mężczyzn wagi lekkiej.
Winner of the bronze medal, representing Uruguay,
Brązowy medalista, reprezentant Urugwaju.
Felipe Clube Ferreira. Winner of the silver medal, representing Ireland,
Srebrny medalista, reprezentant Irlandii.
Fintan McCarthy. Winner of the gold medal, representing New Zealand,
I złoty medalista, reprezentant Nowej Zelandii.
Matthew Dunham. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla naszych medalistów.
Well, folks, whilst that might have been the last race of the day coming down, we still have one more victory ceremony to go, so don't go anywhere in the grandstand area just yet. In a few moments, we're going to have the victory ceremony for the lightweight men's quadruple sculls. The victory ceremony for the lightweight men's quadruple sculls.
Ceremonia wręczenia medali, konkurencja czwórki podwójne mężczyzn wagi lekkiej.
Winners of the silver medal,
Zdobywcy srebrnego medalu,
Ukraine!
reprezentanci Ukrainy.
Ukraine represented by Oleksiy Siabro, Roman Biadarov, Vladislav Yaknienko, and Denis Dyashenko. Winners of the gold medal,
Zdobywcy złotego medalu,
Denmark!
reprezentanci Danii.
Denmark represented by Rasmus Konnerup, Johannes Jakobsen, Johan Poulsen, and Magnus Oddishede. Ladies and gents, let's hear it for our medalists.
Proszę Państwa, oklaski dla wszystkich medalistów.
Well, folks, what a day it has been on the third day of racing, the penultimate day of racing here at World Rowing Cup 2 Poznan 2022. We've seen records fall all over the place. Just shows how fast the conditions are and how the athletes continue to progress and improve year on year in their not only their technical proficiency but their speed out there on the water. It's been a cracking day of racing. We've seen the first metalware and medals awarded here this afternoon, but there is a lot more to come tomorrow. We get started tomorrow morning at 8:50 in the morning, so a slightly earlier start where we're going to run through the B finals until 9:45. And then it's all of the remaining A finals to look forward to from 10:05 until the last race of the day and the last race of the regatta at 2:24 tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be hotter tomorrow than it was today. So if you thought today was hot, we only got to 31 degrees. It's going to be 4 degrees hotter tomorrow afternoon. It's going to get up to 35. So do make sure you bring your sun cream tomorrow and plenty of water to stay nice and hydrated and keep cool out there. My name's Peter O'Hanlon. I've been your English-speaking tower announcer for the course of the weekend so far. Joined up in the tower by Natalia Szymkowiak, my Polish co-commentator. Out there on the course, we've had Robert Trahan-Jones at the 1,000 with his Polish co-commentator, the two-time Olympic gold medalist, Tomek Kucharski. And then at 1,500, we've had Colleen Saville and Waldek Zawołowicz. We're all delighted to be here talking about the amazing racing we've seen so far here in Poznan. And I know we're going to see an awful lot more tomorrow. But just before we disappear and wrap up for the day, we just want to express another huge thank you to all of the volunteers out there who have been so friendly, so helpful, and so diligent in everything that they've done to help make sure that this event has run so smoothly. And a huge thank you to all of the officials who are also out there braving the heat and the sunshine to make sure that things run smoothly and to time, and we have a great competition. But for the time being, it's been a really fun day here in Poznan. We look forward to having you all back here, packing the grandstands and raising the volume tomorrow for tomorrow's batch of racing. It's goodbye for now. We'll see you tomorrow morning for the first race at 8:50.
Proszę Państwa, niesamowite, ale trzeci dzień Pucharu Świata właśnie dobiegł końca. Ten dzień był